Hello everyone. Today I'm here to chat with Dr. Bee Lim, who's a clinical psychologist at Mind Health Collective in Sydney. And Bee's also been a longtime member of the Shapes and Sounds Asian Mental Health Practitioner list as well. Bee also recently wrote an amazing book called Welcome Home: Healing Trauma and Reclaiming Wholeness, which we'll be here to talk about today. So thank you so much for being here today.
I'm so excited to actually talk to you today, Marcus.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so before we dive into the book and just so that the listeners can kind of get to know you a bit better, could you just tell me a little bit about your cultural identity and your migration story to Australia, and perhaps also like your pathway into becoming a clinical psychologist as well?
Mhm. I'm Malaysian born, and as Marcus, you have said, actually, I trained in New Zealand as a clinical psychologist, and
Mm,
now I lived and work on direct land in Sydney. I've always wanted to be a psychologist. So after I've completed my high school, I did 1 year of college in Malaysia and then transferred my credits to University of Otago to
mm,
start my psychology training. At that time, the intake process for psychology at that time is that you need to be a resident for New Zealand to actually being able to pursue clinical training. So I had done a roundabout way in terms of completing my PhD, apply for clinical training, and then complete my training in New Zealand, and then move to Sydney because I really wanted to work in psycho-oncology.
mm,
Um, Now I've been in Sydney for 12 years now, and I've just really excited and also really honored as well in terms of working across cultures and being able to do work with people who are at a very vulnerable stage of their lives and helping them to actually find a path forward.
mm. You touched on kind of like working with people across cultures and like I guess like yeah, could you talk a little bit about like kind of your experience working with the Asian community as well?
Yeah. So the reason that I have moved to Sydney actually is because I wanted to work in psycho-oncology. And at that time, there's the health literacy projects around improving health literacy for people from diverse cultural backgrounds.
Mm,
And I was able to actually work in the research project side of it, but also consult for the Cancer Council New South Wales as well about bringing accurate and helpful messages around cancer, about fear of recurrence, and also psychological treatments as well to a community that I hold very dearly to my heart. I also speak another language as well, so I speak Mandarin and also
mm,
several Asian dialects. So that language skills and also growing up in Malaysia between cultures and languages that have really expanded my horizon in terms of working with different people and also being able to find words or language that really speaks to their heart and their pain as well. So I think like that background have really shaped me to be able to navigate through the different relationships and different cultures really well.
yeah, well, that sounds super amazing. And having been on our list for so long, like I think you were one of the first few who joined our Shapes and Sounds list. I think even before I was a part of Shapes and but yeah, like what does being on the Shapes and Sounds Asian Mental Health Practitioner list mean to you then, like as someone who's been in this field for so long?
Yeah, I think that's just even I've included actually Shapes and Sounds as one of the curated resources in my book Welcome Home.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
I really believe in the work around this, just mainly because um, the one of the biggest complaints is that clients have a lot of difficulties actually finding practitioners, therapists who gets it,
Mm,
who gets the cultural code switchings, the intergenerational silence, the legacy burdens that we carry. So I believe that finding a therapist that understands shouldn't be a matter of luck. So one of the reasons I have become such an early adopter of Shapes and Sounds directory is also because of my own therapy experience when I trained as a clinical psychologist.
mm,
Um, at that time, I went to a therapist to actually help me navigate through my learnings and also um, thinking about how I'll better support clients from more diverse cultural backgrounds. And hearing the therapist tell me that, oh, actually, you are really enmeshed in your family and you should cut all contact. Otherwise,
Mm,
you're not going to be able to work in this field. That was very disheartening, but also quite shocking because
yeah, I
I
can
think like
imagine.
it makes me feel like my family is the problem and
Mm,
my family is the pathology. And in recent years, I think like I have actually talked about this phenomena as much more of what we call like a cultural dissociation. It's the sense of in order to survive our training, in order to survive how we navigate through in terms of our workplace, it feels like we need to erase our cultural identity. Um,
mm,
but this is actually unhelpful. That dissociation from our culture prevents us from being able to understand our client's story and walk with them in a way that is healthy and also interconnected as well.
Hmm. I think I always hear about like what the directory and how helpful it is for the Asian community, but I've never heard your kind of more professional side of things where it's like how this directory has provided you yourself with that kind of awareness and like understanding of like what it means to hold on to your culture within your own practice as well. So I think, yeah, well, that is an amazing and a beautiful reflection from you. And I'm sure many of the practitioners can resonate with that as well. So
Asami and the team are doing great work here,
oh,
so
thank you.
continue on with that. Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about your book now then? So for anyone who hasn't read it yet, like could you just share a little bit about what the book is about? Or maybe like what made you want to write the book?
Yeah, so really, I think like the ideas of writing the book come from just looking around in terms of bookshops and thinking about psychological concepts in a deeper way.
Hmm.
And as I mentioned, I'm a trauma therapist. So for Asian diaspora migrant communities, the parts work framework that we are very familiar with as part of therapy don't go deep enough.
Hmm.
They often miss what we carry. Some of these frameworks think about parts as if parts only live inside of us. But parts actually carry lineage, they carry land, they carry language, they carry survival strategies of people that came before us. I'm not saying that the framework out there is unhelpful, whether you are trained in IFS, internal family systems, schema therapy, theory of structural dissociation. These are brilliant frameworks that I use in my clinical practice, but they have been built in a certain context. So for the clients that I work with, whether they are navigating more collectivistic family systems, migration stories, intergenerational silence, there's oftentimes that layer that it doesn't touch or these models doesn't really extend to. So the reason I really wrote Welcome Home is to actually help us being able to see this part more clearly, but also grounded it in a Asian mental health perspective as well. It's not meant to be a clinical textbook. You're not getting a manual, you're not getting protocols. In the book is actually illustrated and it's a story.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, just before we kind of dive into more about the book, you mentioned a lot about like parts work and like IFS, internal family systems. Like, could you just kind of briefly explain what you mean by parts?
Mhm, mhm. When we talk about parts in trauma, oftentimes it's almost like the different parts of ourselves that get shattered as a
Mm,
result of experiences that happen to us. It doesn't have to even be from a PTSD or complex trauma context. We all will go through different experiences, different adversities in our lives that led to some of these different coping strategies developing as a result of those experiences. And when we talk about parts here, we're definitely not talking about it as a like a multiple personality or dissociative personality disorder type situation. It's
mm,
more in terms of being able to see the different parts of ourselves clearly and being able to understand their stories, their function, and how they come up in different situations.
I see. So it's like, yeah, like kind of like the different protective roles and the different set
That's
of
right.
like responses we're used to
Yes.
following trauma. Okay, yeah. Yeah, well, so I guess that I kind of really picked up on that in the book as well. You kind of have all these different characters and also the different animals representing the different parts. I'm wondering if the characters or the animals, like how you kind of came up with them and like what each of them kind of represent to you.
Right. That's a really good question because that's that we really kind of like broke our it broke my mind to actually trying to find animal archetypes that really summarize and have
Mm,
that cultural resonance as well. So in terms of that story, really is that we follow the story of this character called Isabel Mayland, and she's returning to a house that she has been avoiding for a long time. And inside the house, when she enters, she will meet all these different parts of herself. So the first animal archetypes that she met will be ox. Actually, ox is the first one. So it symbolizes the duty, the responsibility, the legacy burdens that has been shaped by generations that kind of come before her.
mm,
And then she will encounter wolf as well. And wolf is an interesting one. We pick wolf because in Chinese mythology, wolf has always been um, embodying that sense of loyalty. But in this story, really, wolf is representing that rage, that anger, that
mm,
is not okay or not safe to be expressed. So then that anger turned inwards, which lets the wolves to engage in a lot of behaviors that are self-harming. Then we also have the rabbit as well. I dearly love the rabbit.
mm,
In Chinese culture, rabbit represents that gentleness, that meek, and but also easily startled. Um, but rabbit actually was the first character that I came up with because through my work with one of my clients with complex trauma, his rabbit actually taught him how to nurture and sit with his inner child. So,
mm,
so at that time when I worked with him, I always thought that, and I even told this client that if I ever wrote a book, I would actually have rabbits representing that vulnerable child character that's really precious.
mm,
And then we also have the crane as well. Crane is interesting just mainly because in Chinese culture, oftentimes you think about crane as wisdom, as transcendent.
yeah.
Um, but for clinicians, when we read crane or that character of crane, actually we know that crane is not the goal.
Mm,
Meaning that because crane is what we have been trained to do. Crane is to train to observe, to watch, to reflect, to narrate, but crane never descend. So part of the integration for the book is also being able to see that crane need to actually descend to be in the body, just so that integration can happen. So those are the four parts of the animals that inhabit the house. And then we have the celestial will that exists outside of the house. It holds all the parts, but it also then connects us to the collective memory, the ancestors, the migrations, and the land and the language. Um, and when we want to actually kind of think about the will character as really symbolizing and teaching us that integration um, needs to happen without abandonment, meaning that we do not need to exile parts of ourselves in order to heal, or we do not abandon our ancestors' wisdom or um, our culture, erase our culture in order to belong. So that is the general idea
mm,
around the characters. When I say that it broke my brain, part of it is also then thinking about it in terms of how do we fit it in a narratively natural form,
mm,
and how does these characters or how do these characters move through the house in an architecturally um, validating or makes sense kind of like way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Even just listening to you talk about the book, I feel like has been really healing in this last like 5 minutes of you talking about the book.
thank you.
And I think you just wrote such a beautiful story in that it's so like indirect in what it's trying. It's like direct as it's direct, sorry. It's direct in what it's trying to communicate, but I feel like there's so much nuance and that there's so much breadth and space for different people to kind of pick different things from the book and that they can kind of take different things from it as well.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, because the story has so much nuance to it, and at least that was kind of my experience of reading the story. Like, how long did this kind of take you to write, and like, what was that writing process like for you?
I have always had the thought of wanting to write a book like this. And so I think the really kind of thinking process and writing process probably takes about a year in terms of refining and working through some of these different details and nuances. Um, Oftentimes, when you think about someone writing a book, you pick a protagonist and then you just give the protagonist a name. With Welcome Home, it's a lot more nuanced in many ways. So when you even think about picking the name Isabel Mayland, um, there's a lot of thoughts that kind of like go through it, and the name Mayland actually is one that um, it's an interesting story around that, just mainly because I can speak Mandarin and I read Mandarin as well. So thinking about a name that really help people resonate, but also have meaning to it. So Meilin in Mandarin actually means it's the direct translation is Mei Ling, which means beautiful jade. So
Mm,
it's a beautiful name that actually been given to a girl. However, the way that I describe it is talking about it as this feels like a legacy that is a beautiful piece of jewelry that has been passed down.
mm,
It's really precious, but it also then kind of comes with the different expectations, the different burdens as well. So, so I think like writing a book like that is interesting, it's fun because we can actually read about it and dissect it from all these different um, angle. But also that I think like when I'm rereading the book to think about some of this, I'm talking about these book conversations. I'm excited, so I'm even really honored when I have people writing to me and go like, oh, actually, this is the part that I see. I don't need
mm.
to just be Isabel. I don't need to just be Mayland. I can be both.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful because
Mm,
both means integration is not assimilation, is that we can actually integrate all these different parts of us um, to then navigate. And as therapists, we want to actually be able to do this work ourselves. Um, then we can actually guide people that would want to go to onto this process as well.
yeah. I think with the sort of cultural experiences of our Asian community, it's sometimes so hard to find the right words and the right sort of like ways to express ourselves. So I think reading a story like this is so healing and it's so I don't know, just such a non-confrontational way of like really seeing what it's like. And like have someone sort of guide you through that initial journey of like healing as well. I think you've done such a beautiful job writing this book.
Thank
I just have one question as well. Back to kind of the part stuff. You mentioned like the four animals kind of like hold different parts or like kind of represent different parts. I'm wondering if these are kind of like parts you usually see in therapy. Like, is that kind of what you based it off of?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So I think this four parts that I have chosen really is because they oftentimes show up in therapy.
Hmm.
So when I think about structuring the book, as much as I didn't want it to be a therapy book, I still follow a therapy arc in terms of it. So I was imagining seeing a high functioning Asian clients showing up in my office, if they were to be high functioning, they're articulate about their pain, but they're still feeling fragmented inside, then how would I actually approach um, the therapeutic journey with them? So that's the reason why that's how um, I think the therapy journey unfold in terms of this. So when we think about therapy sequence in trauma therapy, oftentimes we talk about encountering the protectors part first. So that is the house of mirrors and the wall city in Welcome Home. Once you have actually gone through those rooms, then you go and meet the exiles, whether it's the wolf that have so much of anger and rage, or the rabbit in the inner safe room that's being protected and is easily startled, one to avoid. Once we have done that, then we go and meet the crane. Um, Crane have an interesting name just mainly because in theory of structural dissociation, we call it the apparently normal part. And
Mm,
to the outside is really normal. This part
mhm,
is the part that actually pay the bills, do all these different things to help organize other people's life. But there's an issue with this part is that this part doesn't land. This part doesn't experience the emotions in the body. So that is how I think like the therapeutic process or therapeutic journey was threading through in terms of the book as well. And I'm looking forward to actually hear how practitioners experience it and how
mm,
aligned or maybe misaligned as well that it is with their therapy process. But I do hope that for readers that even if they have not been through therapy, this is a way that they can actually understand and see parts of themselves showing up in books like that. And hopefully this might be an opening for them to go and access support. Maybe look up a therapist on Shapes and
mm.
Sounds directory and start doing some of this important work.
Yeah, well, that's so beautiful, B. So just if anyone who wants to like read the book or if anyone wants to just even like learn more about you, like where can they find more information about it?
So I'm on the Shapes and Sounds directory.
Yep.
Um, if you would like to read the book, if you want to actually hear me talk a little bit more about the book, we do have different book launches coming up. So tonight we're actually doing one in Sydney. That's one in Melbourne and another one planned for Canberra as well. And if you want to um, learn a little bit more about my work, you can go to my website. So it's drbeelim.com/welcome home. And you can find a little bit about the book and also all these different um, clinical tools that I'm creating as well. Because I'm having a lot of fun engaging in creativity, but would also like to actually be helpful to practitioners as well to have resources for their clients.
Hmm. Well, that sounds absolutely amazing. And thank you so much for chatting with me today, B. I hope everyone's had a good time listening to our conversation as well. And yeah, please check out Dr. Bee Lim's information on her website or come to one of the book launches if you can. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.